Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Akashic Soul Wisdom Show, Business Wisdom Show with me, your host, Natasha Nicole Harris. I have a beautiful and delightful guest, Kelly Rolfe, here with me today, which I am so excited. And we're going to be talking about loving yourself fiercely, a topic I've actually, quite coincidentally, not really, been talking a lot about this last week or so myself. So welcome, Kelly, and thank you so much for coming to join me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to dive into this and really just catch up with you. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a little while, huh? So I'm so excited. We're going to have a great conversation, inspiring conversation. For those of you that don't know me or jumping on here live for the first time, if you're watching live, if you're watching the replay, please type #replay. And as we go through as well, do ask and tag Kelly or I, and we will come back and we will answer any questions that you might have as we go through, because this is a really beautiful topic. So as you're coming on live, do give us a little bit of a wave, a heart. Let us know where you're watching us from as well. And yeah, Kelly, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Because I just find that we always do it so much more succinctly than when other people introduce us. So go ahead and introduce yourself, and then
Thank you.
Dive in.
Hi, my name's Kelly Rolfe. I am a multifaceted business owner, a mom of two. I get to marry my best friend in like 2 weeks. I know, it's so exciting. But I am the podcast host of the Love Yourself Fiercely podcast. I'm an energetics business mentor. I'm a 2-time international best-selling author in the world of personal development. And I really do believe that self-love is the foundation of all that we are and all that we do. And so all of the facets of my world and all of the different pieces of my business and my personal life really do come back to this very topic. So thank you for being here. If you watch this and you want to connect, I would love, send me a message. Tell me that you saw me here, because I would love that. But yeah, I don't want to dive too much into it. But that's my intro. We can go into my story if you want.
Yes, I mean, I just love that. There was just so many nuggets in that intro in itself. And you know, your podcast is amazing. I've been interviewed on that, and it's just we had such a beautiful and epic conversation, and so I'm really looking forward to that being released shortly when you do. But it's like, I just remember that conversation, and we did a little bit of a meditation in that as well. And it was just so beautiful to be part of your world and really talking such a similar language. I know that we do hold so many same resonances and values in place, especially this piece of self-love is the foundation of what we do. And it has to thread through everything that we do as well, doesn't it? It really, really does.
Absolutely. And, you know, self-love wasn't even a concept that I had heard of or understood or knew why it mattered. And when my whole world fell apart and that became the journey of my life, what I actually found out is that without this piece of self-love, we're just going through life looking for evidence from other people, from external people, places, and things to say we're enough, we're worthy, we've got this, it's going to be okay. And then someone or something changes and boom, we fall right back down and we question again. And so when this whole journey came to light, it basically shook the ground I walked on, but cracked me wide open. And it truly did change the trajectory of my entire life.
Yeah. I love that, like shook the ground beneath me and cracked me open wide at the same time. And I think that's I love the way you say that, because I think that so many of us have been through that in one way, shape or form, through something, an event that's gone on in our lives that really has felt like, wow, the bottom's just fallen out of everything. But actually, here's a huge opportunity for us to really open ourselves up to something new and different, to really learn and expand and grow, and to understand ourselves in a whole nother light. I mean, you're right. The self-love concept, we know it. And I think we're hearing about it so much more. I didn't know about it 10 years ago when I had the opportunity to step further into that. But I think it's now something we're talking about, but how much are we actually like living that? And I know that that's everything that you do. And it's such a beautiful example that we can actually do it. It doesn't have to only just be something we say that's important, but we're actually living it. And that's the difference, isn't it?
So, everybody thinks that it's this big thing that we do when really it's just intentionality about how we treat ourselves in
Yeah.
our own reality. Um, if it's okay with you, I'll dive into my story because it'll segue
Yes,
directly into.
yes, yes,
Okay.
please.
Because I'm like, we're kind of dancing around it, and I feel like
I
we just
know,
need
like, yes,
we need
let's
to
dive
go
in.
there.
Yeah.
So, my story began 12 years ago in 2011 when I gave birth to the most extraordinary baby girl. And I was engaged to be married. I believed that my life was going to be this picture perfect reality of what it was supposed to be. And very quickly and very suddenly, it wasn't. And I found myself alone, navigating motherhood for the first time as a single mother. And my world just about shattered because I didn't know. Like, I was like, what is happening? And I did what all women do, and I suppressed all of my feelings
Mm.
to make sure that I could be there for my daughter, that I could be a good mother and really take care of her. She was, here she was, the 6 week old little tiny little nugget. And
Oh,
my whole world revolved around her for a long time. And then, I mean, still does, but in that moment,
yeah.
it was all about her. And then when she was about 5 or 6 months old, picture perfect, like this is a scene out of a movie kind of thing. She was having a really rough night going to sleep, and she was crying, and it was pouring rain outside, and I'm rocking her, and she's crying, and it's not working. She's not settling. And before I know it, I'm crying right alongside her. And I heard this voice inside my own head that said, I can't do this anymore. I
Mm.
cannot consciously keep doing this. I
Yeah.
can't consciously raise another generation of women to put that much power in someone else's hands. And
Wow.
it was the first time that I think I had ever taken self responsibility for where I had ended up in my life. And
Yeah.
where I was in my life was uh, really tarnished relationships with my family, tarnished relationships with lifelong friends. Now this dissolvement of what I believed was the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, this is there's patterns here. Like, this keeps happening. And so if there's all of this turmoil that continues to revolve around me, then I really need to have a conversation with me and say, like, what am I missing? What am I missing
Yeah.
that this keeps happening? And to some of your listeners who've been on this journey, like, that sounds almost like a victim response, right? That victim mentality of like, why is this happening to me? But the truth is, that's how I saw it. And I couldn't quite understand how these patterns of my life continued to happen. Didn't matter where I lived, didn't matter
Yeah.
who was with, didn't matter what was happening in my world. The turmoil and the dysfunction and the lack of communication just followed me.
Yeah.
And when I had that moment of like, I can't keep doing this, was this realization of it has to begin with me. And I knew nothing about personal development. I knew nothing about self help. I knew nothing about this world at all. But I knew that I did not want to raise my daughter to put that much power in anyone else's hands. And my intuition knew that it had to begin with my own growth, my own self awareness. And the more I started to question, like, what is happening? What is happening? The more I realized that I had manipulated, morphed, and shape shifted into these versions of who I believed other people wanted me to be in order to be loved. And none of them were authentically me. And so it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then I had to ask myself the question, well, if that's the case, then who am I?
Oh, big question.
And I had no idea.
Yeah.
No
Yes.
idea. I had spent my whole life trying to be what I thought other people wanted me
Yeah.
to be. And so I adopted this motto of like, if this is rock bottom, there's only one way to go, and that's up. And I would say that to myself all the time, like, there's only one way to go, and that's up. There's only one way to go, and that's up. And for me, it was like this, like, thread that I would hang on to when I had to be real honest with myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have strong communication skills. I reacted all the time. I didn't have strong relationships with my family. I'm navigating co-parenting now with somebody who literally walked out on us. And I'm like, there's so much inner rage. I have no skill set. There's nothing here for me. And so it was
How do
like,
you navigate that?
how
Yeah.
do I navigate? And then I found myself like just saying there's only one way to go, and that's up. And then I started adapting this practice, and it was one of the things that I attribute to truly changing my whole life. And every morning I would look in the mirror and I would say, what do you need today? And this was a twofold question for me. One, I had realized nobody had ever in my entire life asked me what I needed. So that was the first piece, is like I had to ask the question. And the second piece was this rewiring of like, I don't have to be what other people want. I have to answer it honestly.
For
So it
yourself.
was like getting to know myself by answering the question honestly. And then there was this dedication to doing whatever I could that day to honor the answer. So if that was, I needed a nap, I needed a mental health day, I was still working in corporate then, I needed it to work out, I needed to sit by the water, I needed to have a good cry, whatever, I needed to read a book, I needed to do nothing.
Yes.
Whatever the answer came, that first response came in my mind, I had to honor myself enough to honor the answer.
Yeah.
And so that became this like practice, this almost obsessive practice that I couldn't let go of, because what was happening is I was having micro shifts, micro shifts, micro shifts. And I was building a relationship with myself.
Yeah.
And so like fast forward to the next piece, I would find myself in the bookstore in the self-help section, and I would kind of just let the books call to me. And
Yes.
then I consumed as much information I could find about just that, like building a relationship with myself and really finding who I was. And I found this process pretty frustrating because it was like, I can't find the answer. Like, I still don't know who I was.
Yeah.
So then I decided, well, if I don't know who I am, then I get to decide who I am.
Oh, that gives me chills. That gives
And
me chills.
so I got to have this new layer of like, I get to decide what kind of woman I am in this world. I get to decide what kind of mother I am in this world. I get to decide that that woman doesn't react, she responds. I get to decide that that woman has clear and strong boundaries, and that she operates in this newness
Yes.
of a way that I could be proud of.
Yeah.
Up
I
until
love
that point in
that so
my
much.
life, I wasn't very proud. I was aggressive. I was a fighter.
Yeah.
I would yell. I would react. I would shut people out. I would push people away. There was so much that was tumultuous in my being that I didn't want anymore. I didn't want that.
Yeah. I can identify with that in my past for sure.
Yeah, right. It's like this version of us very much is like that reactivity is just a barrier of like, I don't want you to hurt me.
Yeah. It's
I
a
don't want you to
coping,
leave me,
yeah, protective.
right? Coping strategies, protective measures. And
Mhm.
until we can say, I'm no longer available for that, if people are going to react
Yes.
to me, then I'm strong enough to say, I need a minute,
Yeah.
and I will come back and respond in a way that I'm proud of me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's so exhausting as well, isn't it? Always
Yeah.
reacting to something and trying to think, well, I need to protect myself and I need to be in this space and I need to be this person in order to protect myself. It's just tiring. It
Hmm.
really is. But I love
Yeah.
that I get to decide who I am. And that, my goodness, can apply in every single moment. I get to decide who I want to be in this moment.
Hmm. It was a really powerful, I had a series
Yeah.
of what I now know are downloads or nudges from source that really
Yeah.
just propelled me into the next layer. But at the time, it was like, I just heard this little voice in my head. I just heard this little voice in my head. And that I get to decide really became this awakening of myself.
Yeah.
And it was, layer after layer after layer. I just recently wrote a post that was like, the more we shed the layers of who we believe we're supposed to be, the more we awaken the layers of our truth and the layers of our
Oh, yeah.
desires. And that essentially, it's like this, I get this visual of like this opening of a flower, right? And all of its uniqueness and all the different petals and all the different variations of the petals within this
Yeah.
one flower. And that really became this, I felt myself becoming that. And what began in 2011, 2012 as this strong desire to change the narrative for my daughter, slowly but surely opened up, like this flower opened up, and I was like, wait a
Yes.
second, this, like, I can't be the only woman who ever felt this way. Not enough, not lovable, unworthy. There's no way that I
Yeah.
was the only one who felt like this. And so, again, these lovely pulls from source and nudges from source, I started sharing.
Oh,
No, I know, it's like, Bubba, I'm
like,
here.
not going to let you get away with it.
Yeah. I started sharing my journey on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, I didn't know anything about anything. I just knew that there was no way in the world that I was the only woman who didn't feel good enough.
Yeah.
And it almost felt like I couldn't keep what I was learning a secret.
Yeah.
And so I really just started using it as my own diary of like, this is
How
what
beautiful.
I'm learning and this is who I'm becoming. And, I'm not the only one who can do this. And like this beautiful empowerment journey of we get to decide
Yeah.
and we get to love ourselves first and foremost. And that the byproduct of that is your whole world gets better. And
Yes.
so I started sharing on Facebook, and then I was invited to be a part of an author project, a co-author project in personal development world, which was extraordinary. It was a dream come true that I didn't know I had. I didn't know that I ever
Yes.
wanted to
So
be
you
an
just,
author.
yeah, I
And
love
then it
that.
was like, I get to have my name on a book, like a real book.
A real
And so
book.
that a real one that like sits on people's shelves. And
Yes.
so that was really cool. But the greatest piece of that, so that was about 2.5 years after I started my own work as an individual. And the greatest piece about the co-author project was not actually having my name in print, but it was being surrounded by really strong entrepreneurial women. And I had never seen that before in my life. I didn't know any strong, powerful entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I didn't know any women in the world. And most importantly, I didn't know there was a coaching industry. Many of these women were in coaching. And
What's all this
so,
coaching malarkey?
what? What is this humongous thing on the internet that I don't know about? That one. That's the one.
That one, yes.
And, so it really just, again, unlocked this next layer of me that was like, I could
Mm.
see myself in them and they could see the power in me. They were like, you are coaching for free on the internet and you
Yeah.
have been for like
Uh-huh.
2 years. And so it really just like ignited my sacral to the point where I was like, whoa, like maybe this is what they mean when they say you find your passion.
Yeah.
Right? It was like I was so naive about so much of this world, but all I knew is that like I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop sharing. I couldn't stop growing. I couldn't stop pouring into myself. I became the vessel that gave back.
Wow.
And that would have been, I want to say, now we're talking like 2016,
Yeah.
2017.
Yeah. So it's
And
5, 6 years ago.
yeah, I would say right in around there. And then I met my very soon to be husband in 2017, 2016, 2016. And so that became this new journey of this work, right? Can I continue to do this inner work first before I
That's
fall into the patterns of becoming who you need me to be?
yeah. That's the beauty, isn't it? We can do the work when we're doing it as a single person, or, you know, as a single mom. It's like how we can navigate that. We become very good at doing that, and then there's somebody else that we're inviting into our life, and now how do we navigate that with while walking alongside someone and continuing this journey of life with them? And that's something that I've been also really curious about in my own relationship, like holding on to our own power and walking our own journey, and really continuing to ask ourselves, like, who do I want to be? Who do I want to become as part of this partnership? So that, yeah, I could totally resonate with that.
It was a huge journey, and we are 5.5 years into our journey, and it is still a commitment to self. You know, we had another child in 2018. I launched my coaching business officially in 2018. We became a family in 2018, and it was like, boom, I'm thrown into all of these new layers and triggered back into these patterns of people pleasing, of, you know, falling, you know, into these patterns of like, I need you to tell me that I'm doing this right.
Yeah.
I need you to tell me that I'm loving you right. I need this baby to be good so that I remember that I'm doing this mom thing right. I need the clients to tell me that I'm a good coach, that I'm doing this right. And it was like very quickly and very like tornado-esque, like I could just feel myself swirling in the middle of like all of this people pleasing. And I had to just kind of go, no.
Yeah.
And stop. And I am a very realistic mentor, and I will not say that this work ever ends, because it sure doesn't. You know, the triggers continue to come up.
Yeah. Yeah.
The old conditioning, the very deep rooted conditioning that we have based on the examples we were given, based on society's expectation, based on the patriarchy, based on our own experiences, our own trauma, all of the pieces, right? It's like we, particularly as women, get lost in this service of others. We get lost in this, I must give to you before I give to me. And the thing, you know, the thing that I continue to have to recommit to is the inner knowing and the actual truth based on the evidence of this journey that I have, that the more I pour into me, like actually that's my work in this life, the more I stick to the inner work for me, the habitual routines that I have that support me, the more I focus on the relationship with me, the more wildly expansive my relationship with my partner is, the more wildly receptive my children are to sharing their own self-evolution, the more my business grows, the more in depth I grow as a mentor, the more I open myself up to that next layer of the flower, right? And it's like, I've been doing this for 12 years. And if you had asked me 4 months ago what my daily practice was, I would have said, I fell off the wagon again. And I'm feeling very not good about it.
We fall off the wagon, you know. It's so true. And everything in life, like life is supposed to be moving. And it's like we almost want to contain things and go, right, I've got this bit sorted, don't let anything come in and tip the apple cart, as we say. And it's like, if everything stays, and then we absolutely crave and desire change and growth and evolution, and then something new comes into our life that we want to invite in, but it shifts the dynamic, and again we have to go deeper. And that's where you say this, like, this is total realistic. It's like the work, it's not work, the expansion continues because we desire it. So in order to do that, we need to allow the things in that are going to come along and ask us to go deeper, wider, more expansive, and enjoy the journey more. It's like, comes back to what you say about loving yourself fiercely. It's loving yourself fiercely through these other things that come in to say, okay, this is new and different. So how do I love myself fiercely, even though it's something I want, a new relationship, a family, and an addition to the family and a child? It's like, but how do I keep loving myself fiercely through that? That's what I'm really getting from this conversation. And I can see a few people watching. So if you've got any questions or comments or things that really resonate with you, please pop a comment in and let us know what's coming up for you. But it's just, yeah, really, really expansive. So like, when was the brand Loving Yourself Fiercely born? Because I love that. It's I don't know, there's something really nurturing and really holding about that phrase. It's like, it's powerful.
So
It's like,
it
it's
was
soft and it's like,
actually,
oh, I've got you in a good hold.
yeah, it's like, it's a little bit edgy,
Yes.
but I'm a little bit edgy, right? I'm a little, I can be a little sassy. I can, you
Sassy's good.
know, I've got that side of me. And so, Love Yourself Fiercely is the embodiment of like the softness and the sass.
Yes.
Right.
That's exactly
And
how I
that,
feel.
I would say, like, that was my greatest gift to myself, was finding the balance between the softness and the sass.
Yeah.
And so Love Yourself Fiercely was born in 2018, officially in, no, 2017, at the end of 2017. And my business at the time was all about self-love and self-embodiment, right? Self-love, embodiment, self-leadership, really creating and cultivating the relationship with self. Since then, it has evolved, and we talk about the softness and the sass. My brand is now, my business brand is now the Femme Rebellion, because it's all about, being rebels against who and what they said we should be. And
Yes,
so,
let's fight
but
that
the,
one. Woo.
right, it's like me. And so again, the softness and the sass, but Love Yourself Fiercely, the podcast, is like that final piece that I have of the original piece of the journey that's solely dedicated to all women on their path. And so I'm not sure I'll ever change that. I think that podcast will stay that way for eternity, because it just allows all of us to rise into our own, evolutionary journey. And, one of the things that I really I want us to talk about is that self-love isn't an act.
No.
It's not. One of the things that really frustrates me about self-love and self-care being trendy
Yeah.
in the online space is that they're diluted, right? The actual, realistic journey of these things gets diluted
Yes.
in the online space, and they're used interchangeably, and that's not correct. And we say, if you exercise, then you love yourself. That's not correct. We say, if you get a massage, then that's self-love. It's not correct. It's like we've lost the actual truth
Yeah.
behind what these terms mean.
Yes.
And so one of my favorite things, and the best way that I love to explain it, is self-love is really just a whole body acceptance of self. So it's accepting
Mm.
all parts of self. Whereas self care is like a hug, right? It's an act of kindness towards the self.
Mhm.
So it's, loving myself doesn't mean that I worked out today, or that I got a massage, or that I got my nails done. Loving myself means that I see all of me, and the parts of me that I'm so proud of, I let shine, and the parts of me that still need work, I illuminate the greatness within that journey,
Yes.
right? We get to have the greatest. I want your listeners to think about, like, the most epic love story, right? We all have this fairy tale conditioning in us, because we grew up with
Yeah.
Disney princesses needing to be saved and all. And so
Yeah.
there's this like fairy tale culture we grew up in, where it was like, the prince will come and he will save me and he will love me unconditionally and we will live happily ever after. And we were like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, being like, oh my
Great.
goodness,
Yeah.
that's what that is.
Yes. And
And then
that's
we
what
grew
we
up and we
thought.
realized,
Yeah. But we
really,
we
that's not.
we search for it eternally, right? Because that's what we
Mhm,
think it's supposed to be. And then we're
mhm.
disappointed when it doesn't show up in that way. And we're like, well, what's going on? This was the story I was told.
Right. And so we have this like fairy
Yeah.
tale romance, fairy tale relationship, where it's, the dedication is real, and it really truly is eternal, and it's lifelong, and it's ever growing, and it's ever strengthening. And like, that's the image of like the love we want.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the secret here is that's the love in which you give yourself.
Yes.
because
Yes.
the self-love is having a relationship with you
Yeah.
that strengthens as you grow,
Hmm.
that evolves as you evolve,
Yeah.
that becomes unshakable.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we really just understood that the concept of unconditional love begins with self, it really truly does. I said at the beginning, this journey changed the trajectory of my whole life.
Yeah.
My whole life. 12 years ago, I was alone, sad, angry, resentful, single mom, barely out of college, believing the only way of my life was through corporate, believing that I was going to repeat
Yeah.
the pattern of single motherhood and dysfunctional relationships that I had, that's my bloodline.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it for me.
Yeah. And look at what you've changed.
The dedication to myself,
Yeah.
whether it was in the name of my children or not, the better I am, the more I change for them. The more I commit to that unconditional love, all of those generational patterns get broken. And
Yeah.
so it's still about them. But that decision that I made for me changed every single possibility I never believed was possible for me.
Yeah. Yeah, until you start
Ever.
believing it could be possible, and then you start seeing the evidence of that and start believing it is possible. And it's about loving every single part of ourselves. Like we're all of it. Like we can still be grumpy, stroppy, like a bit judgmental, a bit critical, a bit this and a bit that. And it's like, oh, okay, there's that part of me. Okay, well, how can I still love myself unconditionally, even though the duality of something is showing up? I'm
Mhm.
challenged. I want to stay in bed all day today. I'm going to honor that. I'm going to honor myself. What do I, like what you said, what do I need today? Who do I
Mhm.
decide to be through this part of me that is part of me, and love
Yeah.
myself still, even though it might not be the best part of me that I love and or that I like, and
Mhm.
love yourself anyway. And
Yeah.
this is it. This is how we shift it so dramatically. I love what you said there. It is different. Self-love and self-care, they're very, very different.
Mhm. And I want us to maybe dive in even just for a minute or two around
Yeah.
these parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily like, or
Mm,
wanting to, or the parts of us that judge, that are a bit judgmental, or the parts of us that just want to lay in bed all day, and then we have some shame or some guilt around that.
yeah.
you know my m- my greatest piece of how to navigate that is to ask yourself, like, why are you judging yourself about that?
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Because
Mhm.
99% of the time, the shame about having a lazy day, right?
Yeah.
We have these lazy days. The shame around that is
Yeah.
somebody told us we were lazy. Somebody told us that our responsibilities came first. Somebody else's patterns of we don't rest until all
Mhm.
the things are done
Yeah.
gets passed down through us. And then here we are, grown ass women in our own ass houses, and we can hear our moms in the back of our head, like, you have work to do. There's no rest until the dishes are clean. You
Yeah.
can't go to bed with a dirty kitchen.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. I don't like to go to bed with a dirty kitchen, but if I'm tired, or there's a really good true crime documentary on, I'm not doing my dishes because I'm a grown woman and it's my house.
Yes,
You know?
it's my house, and now I get to do what I want. But we still talk ourselves out of that, and so,
All the
and it's
time.
like, don't rest until it's all done. And that phrase in itself is so damning, because it's like it's never all done. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
like the to-do list, right? It's like, oh, if I just get this to-do list done, but every time we tick off like one thing comes on, and it's like, and then we continue in perpetual overwhelm and overload, and we wonder
Mm-hmm.
why we're always chasing our tails. And that's not self-love either. That's just
No.
giving ourselves a hard time over everything. It's like, how do we just keep moving forward with the things that we have to do and still love ourselves in the process?
Absolutely. And it's like
Gosh,
it's like
I
we
still can
should
hear
just
those little voices in my head. That's hilarious.
right?
Like, and they're
Right?
still there, no matter, no
Yeah.
matter how much we do it. but it's noticing it.
we should the shit out of our lives.
We should the shit.
We do.
That's such a true statement. That needs to be a post.
But I always said that I'm going to put it on a mug. Don't shoot the shit out of yourself, because it's so deeply ingrained in us, on women in particular.
Yeah.
It's like, we should XYZ. We should be XYZ. We've been told that since we were itty bitty, before we even knew how to comprehend our own thoughts.
Yeah.
We were being conditioned about who and what we should be. And it's like, says who? Because I know that when I ask myself the question, what do you need today? And my self responds, I need a really solid latte and some sweatpants and a whole lot of nothing. And I say, that sounds delightful. Let me lean into that.
Yeah.
And I allow that to be my truth. I allow myself, without guilt, without shame, to leave the dishes, to lean into self-care and rest. Tomorrow, when I've given myself that guilt-free, shame-free opportunity to rest,
Yeah.
you better believe that not only am I more energized in my soul to get the things done, but I am doing so from a shame-free place.
Yeah.
And should be removed from our vocabulary, right? There are pieces of our life that we're never going to want to do that we need to do.
Yeah.
We're grown-ups. We have bills to pay. We have children to feed. We have, households to run. There are going to be so many things we don't want to do. But we take this to a whole new level, whole new level. And at the end of our days, at the end of our weeks, at the end of our months, at the end of our years, we're resentful, depleted, burnt out, and we still don't have what we want.
Yeah. Yeah. So what, and we why we still do it continuously? It's like keep flogging ourselves, and it's just, it doesn't make us happy, yet we feel that we should be doing it. And when we start to really love, and I loved this image of what you said earlier about this, as we release the shoulds and the conditioning and the old paradigms, and stepping more, we reveal more of our truth. And oh my gosh, that feels so liberating and so freeing, and so much more, I don't know, easy. Like it's like, oh my gosh, I can breathe. And when we can breathe as well, it's like everything can change. Just, it flows through every element of our lives, every cornerstone, every little intricate part of who we are.
And the more we explore who we are, and find who we are, and really uncover who we've always been, that feeling of ease and effortlessness really just comes from authenticity, right? Another trendy term is like, be authentic. Okay, but I don't know who that is.
Yes.
And it's like, so many of us actually have no idea who we are, what we actually want, because we've played into who and what we should be all our lives. And so, that, for me, that decision of like, who do I want to be? In retrospect, in hindsight, it was the uncovering of the woman I always was. Right? That sass has always been a part of me, only she was channeled as reactivity and aggression. Right? When I could learn that was like, ooh, like power, and I could use it in a way that really helped people find that sass within them, that like ability to hold strong in who they are. That's not manipulation anymore. That's not reactivity. It's like, that's my gift.
Yes.
That's too much of me. That too much of me has made me a hell of a lot of money. Like that too much of me, right? That too much of me has helped hundreds of women embody and embrace the too much of them.
I love that. We are constantly, or so many of us are constantly saying, it mustn't be too much. Don't be too much. How often were we told that as kids? Like, don't be too loud. Don't be too this. Don't be too much of this. And like how we can, and this is what holds us back as well, especially in the online space. Like, don't put your head up too far, because otherwise people might start to notice you and tell you you're too much. And it's like, well, hell, why not? And that's it. It's like what you just said there as well. It's like channeling your gift. It's like, it's not too much. It's just channeling who you are into the right space, in through the right energy. And that's where we continue to blossom, and we continue to reveal those layers of the petal as we open to our truth. I love that. Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
so many nuggets to go and think about.
I know. I could talk about this for a lifetime, because there's so much to unpack. And it's like, you know, another one of my favorite little tidbits for people to kind of remember their power, remember who they really are, is like, go back and read your elementary school report card comments. For me, it was like, Kelly is a natural born leader. Kelly talks too much. Kelly,
I got that one. Everything. Natasha talks too much.
Kelly talks too much. If Kelly just applied herself,
I think
Kelly just used her potential.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my.
And it's like she harnesses powerful leadership skills, but if only she would apply herself. And that comment, I swear to you, was on every single report card I ever had growing up. And what that statement means from the school system is, I see her power, but I wish she would do it in our way.
Yeah. Boom.
Who and what we should be. Right? Right? And it's like, okay, so you could see it. You could validate it and see its value, but what you couldn't do is stand for it to shine in its own way. And this is what we've brought into our adult life, particularly in business, particularly in the online space, right? It's like, you have to let yourself be seen, but not too much. In the dating world, be sexy, but not too sexy.
Oh yeah. Yes.
You know, be this, but not to this. Be this, but not to that. Be this, but not too much. Yes, be a good mom, but don't coddle your kids. Be a good partner, but don't give them everything.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell does any of that mean?
Yeah. It's bullshit if you ask me.
It's bullshit.
Like, it's so true. It's so true, because it's like those what you just said there about the report cards. It's like, we can see you, but you need to channel it in the way we want you to, and that is all the societal conditioning. And we've all kind of bought into it. And as the work that you are doing, the work I'm doing, the work that many of my listeners and everyone watching this is doing, is all about de-armoring this. It's about releasing it now. And there are so many layers that we're doing. But as we each and every one of us do it, and we're teaching from this beautiful, because it's multi-layered. It's multifaceted and multi-dimensional. And as we keep doing this, and as we keep speaking into this, we are all individually really contributing to the collective shift. I nearly said shift. That like, get rid of the old collective shift, get into the new collective shift of what we want to create going forward. It's like we're never underestimate the work we're doing. And I think that also feeds into what you just said about being too much. It's never too much. We need this. We're craving this. We desire this. This is the shift that we really want to bring about into being. And we're all doing it. But there's more now. I really believe that more than ever. There's an opportunity for us to do it even more deeply, even more expansively. Even if we've started on this journey and we can recognize these things, let's go deeper together. Let's hold each other's hands and let's go deeper together. Oh my gosh, what a powerful conversation, Kelly. I love it. Oh my goodness.
So let's bring it full circle, right? Yes. From that exact expansive, beautiful, collective, communal energy that we really desire in this world. We want that ripple, that big, huge ripple. But let's bring it back full circle to that very moment that I decided that it started with me. And this is the power of loving yourself fiercely and committing to that relationship building with yourself, is what started as a self-led journey of, I want to be better for the next generation, right? There's the ripple. Has now reached, I can't even tell you. I have served several hundred clients in 4 or 5 years. Now they have several hundred communities, several hundred micro beautiful homes that have now changed the trajectory, and communities where we've changed the trajectory, and the trajectory has been changed. And
Yeah.
so when we realize that the power of it lies within
Yes.
us, and
Yeah.
it's the commitment to self and commitment to the relationship with self that
Yeah.
really truly does
Yeah.
change the trajectory for and narratives for
Yeah.
women everywhere, not just for our generation, but for the generations to come. And if
Yeah.
that is not reason enough to check in with yourself,
Yeah.
meet your own needs, build that relationship, then we need to get clear on what really is in the way for us to say, I don't love or value myself enough to even bother. Right?
Yes.
There's deeper work to be done there, but the majority of us will often rise if we know that it will serve another. But
Yeah.
if the service of another is determinant upon the service of self, it's
Yeah.
all intertwined and it's all worth every moment.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Thank you for bringing that back around. I mean, like we could go on for many hours talking about this, but it's just there's just been so many nuggets. I've been scribbling things down as we've been talking, but there's so many beautiful analogies, and the flower especially just really resonant in my soul and my heart. I can really feel that in my heart. So
Mhm.
thank you for that. And it just in itself has been hugely valuable. And is there one last thing you'd like to leave before I just ask you then to share where people
Mm.
can find you and how people can start following you? Because yeah, come and follow Kelly. But is there one kind of like parting thought, or I don't know, pearl of wisdom you'd like to share? I mean, there've been so many, but like, is there one in particular that stands out you want to maybe reiterate?
One of the things that I, you know, that I know to be powerful, and I also allows us to bring a visual to this expansion, is that I say the relationship with self, right? It's about this committed to relationship to self. But one of the things that is so important is when you commit to that relationship, you're actually building trust with yourself. And
Oh,
once you start to build trust with yourself, what happens is you start to increase your confidence, right? So now we're going to draw a triangle, okay? So one peak goes to the next peak. And when we start to bring confidence, we start to believe in ourselves, we trust our intuition, we believe in ourselves. What happens is we actually start to take action on the things we actually want for ourselves and for our lives, for our desires,
mhm. Yeah,
which most of us have never done. So
yeah,
we've got trust, we've
yes,
got confidence, we've got action. And when we complete that triangle, what we've created is love. And this visual, it's what I call the trifecta of success because it's applicable to wherever you are in your life. Business
yeah,
owner, not business owner. We all have our determination or our determining factors of success. And so
yeah,
the trifecta of success, you want to make buttloads of money? Love yourself. You want to have the most extraordinary relationship? Love yourself. You want to change the narratives on parenting and break the generational curses? Love yourself. You want to be that CEO at the
yeah,
top of the corporate ladder? It starts with you. And
yeah.
so what I want to leave you with is the trifecta of success.
Beautiful.
You are building the most extraordinary and lifelong relationship of your world. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't, you come in alone, you leave alone. And so it's like the more you really truly commit to that relationship and you pour into it as much as you pour into every other relationship of someone you love,
yeah,
the more your world will drastically change in the most extraordinary ways.
yeah,
Your fear will diminish, your hesitation will diminish, your ability to love another and allow another to love you will change dramatically. And all of it just really enhances every facet of your life. So the trifecta of success becomes the visual I want you to hold every time it feels unsteady. Like,
yes.
where can what triangle do I got to go back? Or what peak do I have to go back to? Do I have to go
Yeah,
back to trust? Okay, let's tap in. Do I trust this? Yep. Move forward.
yeah. I love that. I love that. And it's so true. And I love the triangle as well because it's solid, it's got a foundation, it's not going to topple over. And it's just, yeah. And as we do that, and trust is a big part of it, isn't it, as well? It's just like we've got to trust ourselves more that we've got this, and we're moving forward, and find your people to pull you along and like stand by your side, and we don't have to do it all alone, but it starts with us. Absolutely, truly. So, oh my God, Kelly, thank you so much for this epic conversation. I've really truly loved it. Where can people find you? And we'll pop the links as well in the post, but just for the audio to let people
Well, thank
know.
you so much for having me. I love these conversations, and I love you, and I love the work that you do, and so I'm really, really grateful. For those who want to hang out, the gram is my jam. You can find me on Instagram at the Femme Rebellion, and on Facebook as Kelly Rolfe. And if you love these conversations, then the Love Yourself Fiercely podcast is just filled with them. These are the real, raw, vulnerable conversations that we only have space for over there. So come and hang out with me anywhere you want.
Yeah, go hang out with Kelly. I highly, highly recommend it. I love seeing your reels pop up, and just like your Instagram page is beautiful. I love it. So yeah, follow Kelly. Go check out her podcast. Go check out the Femme Rebellion, and really start. Yeah, love yourself fiercely. Like, let's all come back to love. We need so much more of it in the world. I really, truly believe that. And it's not just about throwing it out. It's about where it starts within us. So, oh my gosh, Kelly, thank you so much. It's been a true honor and a pleasure. And I will be back here next week, actually all week, live in my Facebook group for my 5-day, really coincidentally, my self-love journey with the Akashic Records, really just deepening this conversation even more. I love how this has been so synchronistic. We booked this in like months and months ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if you want to come and join me, all the links are sort of plastered everywhere over my social media. Come and register and come and join me for 5 days of immersive self-love with the Akashic Records as well. But oh my gosh, Kelly, this has been so insightful. Thank you so much. And if you do watch the replay, please do let us know if you've got any questions. Tag us when you put comments, and we will come back and we will answer them. So thank you again, Kelly.
Thank you.
And I'll see you all soon.